Welcome to Byzantine's Reviews. Today we'll be taking a look at Borderlands 3, a game I've been excited to play for many years. As always, a quick disclaimer that there may be some minor plot spoilers in the first part of this review, so please skip ahead if you'd like. So without further ado, let's get started. Borderlands 3 takes place in Pandora after the events of Borderlands 2. Handsome Jack is long gone and the Hyperion Corporation has crumbled. In Borderlands 2, it was revealed that Pandora, along with other planets in the solar system, contain mysterious vaults of all kinds of treasures. You are a vault hunter answering the call from the Crimson Raiders, who are at the brink of annihilation from the remaining factions on Pandora. You're introduced to one of the main characters from Borderlands 2, Lilith, and immediately set forth on your adventure to collect a vault map. Once you acquire said map, you gain intel to where the other vaults are located within the universe. Just before you set forth on the next vault, you are jumped by the game's main villains, Tyreen and Troy, twins who are on their own mission to acquire the vault keys and rule the universe. After the mark Handsome Jack left on us in Borderlands 2, these twins in this game have very large shoes to fill, and it clearly shows in this game. I mean, they aren't the worst villains I've ever had to see, but my goodness can they get annoying at times. Picture a set of spoiled, loudmouth, entitled children who love to livestream everything, and you got the antagonist of this game. The funny thing is, defeating them is all that more satisfying as we finally get to shut them up. Okay, back to the story. You basically go from planet to planet, unlocking the vaults, defeating the guardians, and collecting the loot. The main reason for visiting the vaults is to collect the vault keys for the Great Vault. The thing is, once you defeat each of the Vault Guardians, the twins show up and siphon their powers, which I forgot to mention is Tyreen's special skill. Spoiler, the twins are sirens as well. Along the way, you'll be meeting a lot of characters from previous Borderlands games, and new ones as well. Some of the older characters would include Moxie, Tiny Tina, otherwise known as Tina now, Marcus, and a really annoying character, Ava, that I chose to ignore as much as possible, and from there, the list goes on. There are a few twists and turns throughout the game, and a large amount of content to sift through. The ending, which I won't spoil, is the typical type that leads up into what a sequel would entail. You explore each planet, collect the keys, defeat the twins, and also take out the Great Vault Guardians. Rinse and repeat. Typical story, decent plot. I gotta say, they did a pretty good job on the story, but once again, it didn't entice me like Borderlands 2 did. Sequels rarely do. Borderlands 3 is a first-person shooter RPG, and the mechanics in this game are better in every way I feel compared to the previous Borderlands games. The shooting is tight, the skill tree gives you a plethora of builds to suit every playstyle, and the Vault Hunters are very interesting. You can go from a drone piloting bad boy to a monster training robot guy, a female siren to a mech controlling hunter. Each one of the Vault Hunters brings a unique playstyle to the foray. Every weapon you use has this very satisfying feeling, and I was excited every time I got a new weapon. Speaking of weapons, when Gearbox advertised billions of guns, they weren't kidding. Every type of combination you can think of is pretty much in this game, including a gun with legs that can run around like a turret for you. Really cool. The one knock I had against Borderlands 2 was the difficulty or lack thereof. In Borderlands 3, the difficulty scales really well in my opinion. There were more than a few times I went down and had to figure out strategies to progress the story, something I didn't have to spend too much time thinking about in the previous game. In Borderlands 3, they have a Mayhem mode which scales the difficulty once you beat the game. The one thing I had trouble with was once I beat the first playthrough, I had to debate on whether I should go do Mayhem or finish true Vault Hunter mode first. I'm still struggling a bit on which direction I should take. The other bit of criticism I have is the first playthrough was more of a rush to finish it. I didn't want to do many of the side quests, and I thought when I played through this in true Vault Hunter mode, I would spend the time and finish every piece of content. My logic was, why get the lower level version of loot when I have to redo all of this anyways? May as well wait and get the higher end stuff instead. Funny how that works out, as this is one of those games that keeps you hooked in the promise of that shiny new weapon you didn't think you wanted until you got it. They definitely did a great job in keeping you hooked even when you finish the story. The other new piece of this game is the verticality. You now have the ability to grab onto ledges and climb buildings to an extent. It brings a whole new way of defeating enemies and helps diversify your strategy as you progress through the various planets. One of the areas this game definitely shines in is the first-person shooting mechanics, and if you're a fan, I would highly recommend you give this a go. The one area that I have really not ventured into is the multiplayer and co-op sections of this game. I have done the first few missions in co-op with a friend and the experience was also enjoyable. The loot system is also well done in this regard, as each player is assigned loot, or you can go for the free-for-all mode where it's first come first served. They have their own naming schemes for these modes too. The biggest draw for me would be to play co-op through the whole campaign with a friend, as it scales difficulties and the loot at the same time. One of the areas the game really excels in is the design of each area or planet. Every one of them have their own unique design element that sets it apart from the others. Whether you're in a desert-like planet of Pandora, the big futuristic-looking city of Promethea, or the swamps of Eden 6, there is a landscape for everyone. The amount of time and effort put into the design of each of these areas is seen as you progress through each part and start to understand why things are put where they are. This is definitely a visually appealing game, and my system was put to the test when running it. As with all PC games, there are a plethora of options to customize your settings to hit that sweet 60 frames per second spot. As for stability, at the time of this recording, I had no issues in running this game or dealing with any crashes, but as always, it'll really depend on your hardware configuration. Speaking of the visuals, one thing I forgot to point out was the art style. From what I understand, there are two camps for this. One group refers to this as cel-shaded art, and the other camp calls this comic book style art. Either way, you should be forewarned that this is no Destiny 2 or Battlefield style graphics. Some people love this style, others hate it, calling it too cartoony for their taste, which to that I say, you shouldn't write off a game based on the art style alone. The level designs are also really well done. I had a blast exploring Promethea and going through the various areas. I feel like in this game there are always something to do and always something interesting behind every corner. The landscapes are vast across each of the planets, and you are given a choice of a multitude of vehicles to choose from to explore the planet. Each of these vehicles was also unique, and the driving and fighting mechanics on them were also satisfying. You also have the ability to take out other vehicles, collect parts, customize your vehicles, and the best part of all, no microtransactions. You can literally farm most of the components you need throughout the game. The soundtracks in the game suited each area very well in my opinion, and the sound effects were great, from the way each gun sounds to the sound your vehicle makes when they change gears. Every sound had a satisfying oomph to it. This is something that really stood out to me during my gameplay. I got this game when it first came out, and it was an Epic exclusive. Like many others, I was not happy about the fact that Epic was the only ones who were selling this game for the first year, but I took the plunge anyway since I'm a huge Borderlands fan. Overall, the launcher isn't the worst, and I'm living with it. It is now out on Steam for anyone who is interested as well. This game took me about 40 hours to complete the first run through, which is pretty decent for the price I paid. If I were to complete everything in the game, I would probably add at least another 20 hours or so, and then would need to run through it again on harder difficulty. If you're able to find this game on sale like it is at the time of this recording, then the value just goes up for the money, and there are a few games that offer this much somewhat unique content in a game at this price. I mean, sure, there are a lot of games out there that are just as long, but after a while you start to notice the missions are all the same, or what I like to call the rinse and repeat problem. I didn't feel this too much in Borderlands 3. I think one of the greatest strengths of this game is the non-stop action. Every encounter felt action-packed with just the right amount of difficulty to keep me engaged. Even when I got stuck at a boss and had to change my strategy, it never felt slow to me. I did like that the golden keys are back, and it seems like there are new keys to redeem often. This can really help when you're stuck and need that new weapon that can help you push through some of the more challenging areas. That is, of course, if you are in the favors of the RNG gods. The other piece which I enjoyed was the fact that as you progress and use certain manufacturers' weapons, they would also mail you a new weapon. It was a unique aspect that I would never have thought of, and very creative as far as the developers go. And it's also nice to get rewarded for being loyal to a gun manufacturer, I suppose. There are plenty of expansions and add-on content that keeps dropping and will continue to do so. I will make sure to review the larger expansions as they become available. Please tell me what you think in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this review. Subscribe and hit the notification button if you'd like to keep up with the reviews released on this channel. Until next time, keep on gaming.